All right. It says I'm live. Give it a second. All right. There. It says I'm live. Give it a second. It would appear that my Bluetooth did not connect. Let's try that again. Okay. All right. That's better. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Morning, Squatch. Oh, didn't see you last night. I'm heartbroken. I am. No, I'm over it. I'm going to start with off description topic. You want to talk about a route? Look at Virginia. Let me put this in some very pointed context. That should have been a blowout. Well, it was. Just not the blowout it should have been. One of these days, I'm going to remember everything. And then you guys are going to wonder what the hell happened. And if I hired an assistant or something. What should have happened was a blue blowout. And what happened instead was a red blowout. A red blowout so bad that they still cannot conceivably cover it up. It really should have been a very, very close race. And then a couple of counties recount. You know where this is going. That didn't happen. Up in New Jersey, that appears that might be the case. New Jersey has stayed blue, despite a very, very close election. Do you hear that? I hear ringing off in left field. But congratulations to Virginia. You managed to make it so that nobody could question ever the outcome. Squatch is pointing out that next time it will be better fortified. Because, yeah, we all know. There is no question or doubt that Arizona and Pennsylvania got fortified. Virginia's fortification, a little más o menos. There's some room to wonder if that had to get fortified or not. Actually, there's a whole lot less room now based on what happened yesterday, or not yesterday, day before, Monday. But, yeah, we know. And all of this just proves what we knew all along. That ringing out in left field was not just people celebrating the World Series. Love you, Susan. Okay. The next one. And again, this is an off description subject. I was watching the news this morning. Morning, Luke. You're going to love this one. Luke is especially going to love this one because he's been on this subject. It's going on 2 years, 2.5 years maybe now. I was watching the news this morning, and a newsroom journalist was talking about the Ahmaud Avery case. You know what? I'm just going to say Mr. Avery because I cannot say his first name correctly. I'm not going to insult him by that. I'm going to tell you all the truth. When I first saw that video, the video that the three men themselves did make, so there's no question about the provenance of that video. It looked really bad. It looked like a slam dunk first-degree murder case. All right. The only thing they could, and I said this back at the time when I first heard about it, the only thing they could possibly do is try for a plea bargain to second-degree murder. That was the best they could hope for. And I doubted that they could make it. Flash forward a week or so later, a little bit more came out about that story, didn't it? Including a video of Mr. Aubrey in the house. Now, that video is very clear. He's just standing there, looking around, and then he left again. Or at least the one I saw was. Very clear, he didn't touch anything. He just looked around. And there's a claim that this is a common practice, and you know what? They're not lying. There's thousands of videos of people that they made themselves breaking into houses under construction, looking around, and leaving. There's also hundreds, well, okay, dozens of videos of kids breaking into houses and smashing literally everything in sight. There's a case out of California, I think it was. Something like 5 kids broke into a house, did something like $100 million or a couple $100,000 worth of damage. I remember the final tab was over $500,000. Smashing up sinks and toilets and ripping out sections of bulkhead and partitions and everything else, just any kind of wanton, mindless destruction they could. They were convicted. All right, there's no question or doubt who did this. They made the videos themselves. That was a big mistake. Now, the 3 men see a guy break into a house under construction. They went and chased him down in a pickup truck with a shotgun. That video, them chasing him down, was the one that hit the internet first. And you know what? That is a horrible look. You might as well just flat out walk yourself into the police station and plead guilty. You might avoid the death penalty. But then you see the rest of the story, and this is not even me talking. I'm gonna not quite throw somebody under the bus. When I saw the video of Aubrey in the house, that was on COLLATINUS channel. And that was actually the first clear thing I heard about this story was COLLATINUS video talking about the rest of the story after he had already put something else out where he had a very different opinion. Okay. That happened. I'm over it. And you know what? Based on what he was seeing at that time, which was about 48 hours before he saw the video of Aubrey in the house, I was right there with him. I had heard about the truck and the shotgun, and having not heard anything else about the story except a black man was killed, I thought, gee, that sounds like good old KKK shit. I had not heard the 3 white guys part. So my bias there was pretty limited. Gee, 3 guys in a pickup truck with a shotgun chased a black man down in Virginia. Wow. That sounds like good old KKK shit. Then, as I think it was a few days later, I see COLLATINUS video talking about the rest of the story, Okay, so this is what happened. Good to know. And then I think it was the next day that I saw his first video where he came to the conclusion, yeah, this was just murder. And I came to that same conclusion pretty quick. Now I'm going to talk about the reporter. Uh-oh. So I'm watching that the trial has started, right? And this journalist takes so much time to point out that the jury is 11 white women and 1 black man. He took so much time to point out that the victim was a black man who was jogging. Right? Flag on the play. I actually kind of don't care too much about the jogging issue. He was in the neighborhood. If that was it, that would never have been a justified response. Somebody's walking through a neighborhood. So what? I do remember, before I saw COLLATINUS video, I had heard about the jogging. They shot a black man for jogging in a neighborhood. I'm remembering now. It also made me wonder if this was a predominantly white neighborhood, because it's Virginia. Let's be honest here. He took so much time to point all these things out. What he did not do, and did not even attempt to do, was point out that the 3 men had seen this man, Aubrey, in a house under construction, and that it was a suspected construction site burglary, which means felony level thefts. And I think under Virginia law at that point, it was $1,000 or more of materials or equipment taken or destroyed. As it would turn out, Aubrey actually didn't do anything except look around. It's purely trespassing, nothing more than that. He would have totally walked. That case wouldn't have even gone to the district attorney. The cops, if they had been able to arrive, excuse me, and take Aubrey into custody and ask him what his version, I went in, I looked around. Wouldn't have even gone to the district attorney. The worst that would have happened is they would have said, next time ask. All right? You're free to go. And if we hear about something else happening, we know who you are. We're going to ask you questions. Well, okay. That's an unfortunate fact of life. You were caught trespassing in construction sites in that area, and they want to talk to you. No, yeah. But the video proves it's not me each and every time. You're right. The video proves it's not you each and every time. Oops. My bad. That's not you. Have a nice day. Or it proves it is you, and, well, we need to talk some more. That's it. That would have been the end of it. They showed up with the truck. Me, living in Nevada, being from California, having lived in Colorado, and traveled for about 6 months throughout the South, I'm thinking, yeah. If I had been Aubrey, I might have come up with the same general idea. Wait, 3 white guys in a pickup truck. One of them's got a shotgun. Oh boy, I'm in deep, deep, deep trouble. And it escalated from there. But this reporter went on and on to make sure that all you heard was 3 Klansmen shooting a black guy and nothing else. Now, he never came out and said Klansmen. He wanted you to hear the parts that made you think Klansmen. I'm going to go all the way here. He was trying to make sure that that's what you heard, so that no matter what, these guys cannot get a fair trial. Maybe their actions were unjustified. There's some legitimate room for doubt. Did they need to grab the shotgun? Probably not. Did they really need to chase him down in a pickup truck? Probably not. Did they need to go and find him and find out what's going on? Well, about that, part of their defense is actually going to be putting this off on this city, I believe it is, and it's Atlanta, if I understand correctly. Well, no, it's not Atlanta. It's a suburb of Atlanta. Part of their case is going to be putting this off on the city, that this was not the first incident, and that the police department simply was not following up on these cases. They weren't even trying. If nothing's gone, it's not actually a burglary. You have to take property for it to be a burglary. It's just a trespassing case, and it's a misdemeanor trespassing case. He didn't break anything. He didn't touch anything. He just walked in, and they're not going to follow up. That is a priorities issue. They got rapes and robberies and murders to follow up on. Legitimate rapes and robberies and murders to follow up on. This is not a priority. Parking tickets might be a higher priority. At least that's going to end up somewhere. I'm going to dig back a little bit into the collective memory. I know Luke's old enough to remember this. I know Squatch is old enough to remember this. And some of the other lurkers are old enough to remember the Tawana Bradley case. Tawana Bradley case. She accused, I believe it was 6 New York cops of gang raping her, and then tried to sue the city, but never filed the criminal complaint. Wonder what happened there. For those of you just tuning in, I have always been completely suspicious of any civil suit filed without a criminal complaint in a criminal matter, like a rape. You say this guy raped you, but then you never went to the cops. Why not? Because you know that the cops can find out if a rape happened or not. It's really easy for them to figure that part out. There's actually an episode of Law and Order Special Victims Unit where they kind of talk about that, only that one was smart enough to stage a rape so that she could sue the hotel. Tawana accused 6 New York cops of raping her, never filed a criminal complaint, and to this day has never actually acknowledged that the complaint was false. Al Sharpton became famous from this case. Well, let me rephrase that. Most people became aware of Al Sharpton's existence because of this case when he took it up as her civil attorney. To the best of my knowledge, to this very day, he still insists, yes, she was raped. Yes, this was a justifiable case, blah, 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 blah. He's her attorney. That is his obligation. To this day, to the best of my knowledge, not a single journalist has ever stepped forward and said, no, that's not what happened, and we told a lie. You know what other reporters have never stepped forward and admitted that they told the story they wanted you to hear? Brace yourself. Richard Jewell is literally an adjective, now for somebody who is falsely accused. Because one reporter from one newspaper, not national TV, all right, not radio, A local newspaper, an Atlanta newspaper, Atlanta again, claims that somebody in the district attorney's office told her that Richard Jewell was being looked at as the 1992 Olympic bomber. To this day, she has never stepped forward and said, this isn't true. He wasn't the bomber. Well, actually, she did do that. That's all she's ever done. Okay, my informant was wrong. Richard Jewell is literally the adjective for falsely accused, because he was absolutely falsely accused. And there's some people, not me exactly, who have always wondered if she just totally made the story up. Flag on the play. There is a certain individual who was with the Atlanta District Attorney's Office at the time. Her name is known to the public, and there is some connection between her and the reporter. I remember I looked into this like 15 years ago. I have always, you will never see me watch or follow or in any way respect that particular district attorney's office employee. It will never happen, because I think she's the one that made the story up out of thin air. We have a real problem, and it goes back at least to 1994. For those of you that are old enough, to the 1980s. Journalists are not held to any ethical standard. They are able to say anything they want, cannot be held accountable. Doesn't matter how brazenly false the story is. And they cannot be held accountable except by their employer. Their employer can fire them. That's it. You know, I know the Second Amendment goes a long way, but brazenly lying about people is not covered by the Second Amendment. Even in the first hours of the Republic, brazenly lying about somebody was wrong. You could be held accountable for it. It was civil at the time. It became criminal later on, depending on how you did it. And I happen to know this because Alexander Hamilton, the first treasurer of the United States, was an attorney by trade. He fought for the precedent that the truth is always a defense to slander. If you're telling something that's unkind but true, there's nothing that the accused, the injured party can do about it. You say I'm wearing a sweatshirt that looks vaguely like a Revolutionary War infantryman's uniform, and I didn't like you saying that, well, I can go fuck myself. That's what it looks like. I can waste your time in court all I want. The only thing I'm going to get out of it is a judge laughing his ass off as he throws the case out, because that is actually what I was wearing. There is a vets group that I'm associated with, rather loosely. I came to the group one day, and somebody said, "Hey, that's a traitor's shirt." And I looked down. Oh, yeah, that's right. This was the uniform of a traitor. Americans, we say patriot. But no, these were actually British subjects who had taken arms against their government. That's the truth. So yeah, this was a traitor's uniform. I couldn't sue you for that. I couldn't sue him for that. Go ahead. Call me a traitor in the chat. I would actually be overwhelmingly amused. Alexander Hamilton fought for that principle that the truth is a defense to slander, which means that slander up until that point was a real thing that you could do something about. And yet we allow reporters to slander and libel, important distinction there, until hell freezes over because, well, my freedom of the press. No. You do not have the right to tell a story that you know is fundamentally untrue. Let me catch up on the chat real quick. Okay. Mostly it was people saying hi. Okay. Luke points out there's always more to the story. Well, there is always more to the story. And sometimes the details are important and sometimes they're not as important. But we have to get the true story. All right? The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. More so than in a courtroom. In a courtroom, at least the basic truth will eventually wear out or come out. And there will be some degree of accountability, but in court of public opinion, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth doesn't matter when people have made up their minds. The Bradley case. At the end of the day, they figured out that, yes, some things happened that day that maybe shouldn't have. Wasn't rape. Right? A couple of the cops were later fired. And that case had a lot to do with it. Okay, that happened. You know, it's end of discussion. That part happened. In the court of public opinion, though, people can make up their minds and never, ever hear the rest of the story. Nobody ever reads the retraction on page 2. There are people out there that still believe that Richard Jewell was guilty, and Mama Carey was one of them. And this has actually bugged me. He was absolutely cleared, and yet people out there still believe he's guilty. Okay, DM Foss said, my live stream canceled, video just dropped. Oh. God damn it. I know what he's referring to. Just ignore that, folks. Shit. Did that again. Okay. It is what it is. One of these days, I'm actually going to remember to do that before I go on. Okay. And the rest of it, I'm going to skip ahead to Squatch. Not exactly wrong. They were technically British. Well, no, they weren't technically British. They were legally British. They were colonial, and they were being treated as second-class citizens, which is going to be a problem under the best of circumstances. And that's the best of circumstances. The worst of circumstances is that's the start of the war. Almost always, that's the way it ends up. Don't believe me? I don't give a fuck. Go look at Easter Island. What happened there? What is more important, though, is that reporters have been allowed to do whatever they want, whenever they want, under whatever circumstances they want, and they are never held accountable. Because my First Amendment, you can libel people because you're a reporter. This is not okay. Like I said, Mama Carey went to her grave believing Richard Jewell was at least somewhat guilty. And with somewhere around 2003 or so is when I actually learned about that Mom thought he was guilty. She allowed that maybe he wasn't guilty of the bombing, but he was guilty of something that he knew it was going to happen or something and allowed it to happen. There's never been any evidence of that. Has still never been held accountable. Diana Griego, for those of you that know that name, well, correction, for those of you that don't, she was a reporter with Sacramento Bee. Her employer started going through receipts, and something here was not adding up in his mind. I'm not sure what it was he found. I'm not sure what it was he saw that made him keep looking further. But he later determined that at least one of the people that she claimed she had interviewed, a homeless woman, never existed. I remember because when I first started hearing about that, he knows she doesn't exist. How exactly? You know how many fairly anonymous homeless women are in Sacramento? Well, I was living in Sacramento at the time. I was working security down across the street from Loaves and Fishes and right next to Salvation Army. Actually, across the street from, I can't remember the name, but it was a porn shop. Oh, right next door to Salvation Army. Loaves and Fishes was behind the porn shop. Every day when I was at work, I would see at least 3 or 4 homeless people, and at least one of them would be a woman. And I'm talking about way, way late at night. This, despite the fact that I drove to work, even though I could walk that far, I know because I had walked that far. I could easily have biked that far. Actually, I probably could have biked that far faster than I drove because you have to hop up on the freeway to get down to 16th Street, with any chance of actually getting there today. How does he know this homeless woman doesn't exist? Well, apparently he did, because he fired her, and nobody has ever actually pointedly said, yes, this woman exists. I'm going to go a little bit further and say, the only thing I would have accepted is this anonymous homeless woman appears and gives her testimony. Now, I know some people are going to call me a hypocrite because I talk about Fix so much, and a couple of you have talked to her, and that's a separate thing. Vast majority of you haven't. That's because I keep her anonymous, or as anonymous as I can considering the circumstances, because her testimony would be damning to certain people. If they even knew she was still alive, which they probably kind of do, they would do everything to make sure that she could never talk again. I can live with that hypocrisy. All right. It's literally living as part of it. I can also say that she does exist, and I can prove she exists. And someday that video is going to come out. The real question is a certain elected official elected official going to die, or is Fix going to die first? That's going to be the really telling mark. If Fix dies in her 80s of an otherwise natural cause, that video will be buried for another 10 or so years, and me or somebody else who's responsible for it, and this is what Fix specifically said, we'll release it about 10 years later, because the point to releasing it then is questionable. It'll hurt the children of this elected official, but they won't care that much. They already know. Either way, it's time to start holding journalists responsible for their libel. Back in April, I think it was, y'all heard me spurg out a little bit, actually quite a bit, about a radio personality saying baseless allegations of voter fraud. Yeah, I did that. That happened. I'm perfectly comfortable with that spurg out, because what's come along since, all of a sudden, he's not saying baseless allegations. He's saying something new now. What was it? It's just a couple days ago. Whatever. I know not to trust that guy. He's a liar. He's a thief. He's a murderer. He is. He's a murderer. The ability to tell a lie as a journalist and get away with it is particularly pernicious. Because you create an environment where certain expectations rise to the top. Let's go back to the Aubrey case. The entire so-called summer of love boiled down to people raging about the Aubrey case. Brazen, unquestionable KKK murder. Right? Even I believed it at first. No, actually, that's not quite what happened after all, is it? And yet, to this day, not a single reporter has stepped forward and said, oh, no, actually, it wasn't a brazen KKK murder. It was a citizen's arrest that was poorly conceived. I'll grant that. The way they carried it out was stupid. Even worse executed, the shotgun. Really, the shotgun. And ended very, very badly. I'm going to lean into this a little bit because this is the mandatory carry channel, and I have said this before. If Aubrey had had a gun as well, granted, jogging with a gun would have been very, very difficult. And I actually took the jogging exemption off after having put it on for a couple weeks because of this. But if he had had a gun, they would have been a little less quick to pull the trigger. They would have been a lot more quick to stop him and say, We need to talk. You need to stay here until the police show up. Why? What's this all about? You broke into my house. I have my own gun. Are we going to discuss this civilly? Yeah, we're going to discuss this civilly after the police arrive. And by the way, that would be kidnapping until it was proven to be a justified citizen's arrest. And that's the way that case would have ended. Cops show up, they say, okay, well, yeah, this is a justifiable citizen's arrest, but no, it's not the crime that they thought it was. And it's a misdemeanor trespassing case. All right. I guess I beat on this horse dead enough. So I'm going to go and look at the original. Ah, yes. Okay. I am going to share a screen. It's going to be the full screen, guys, because I want you to be able to read along with me. There's some things here that are not actually relevant at the moment. Stop screen. Share. Share screen. Windows. There we go. Make sure it's on. Good. Full screen. Well, that's not quite as good as I would like, but Lucretia was the wife of Lucius Tarquinius COLLATINUS, a nobleman related to the fifth, and it would turn out the last king of Rome. She was not a typical upper-class wife. While others would go out when their husbands were away, Lucretia always stayed home. In 509 BC, King Tarquin's army was laying siege to a city. COLLATINUS was off with the army. One night, he and his comrades, who included Tarquin's son Sextus, were having a drinking party. COLLATINUS bet that he had the most virtuous wife in Rome. The drunken men hopped on their horses to prove him wrong. When they stopped at each of the houses, they found the other wives either partying or preparing to go out. However, when they peeped in on Lucretia, they saw a woman sitting alone weaving. Sextus was attracted to her. Pause. Remember, Sextus is the the son of Tarquin, the king of Rome. Okay. The next night, Sextus visited Lucretia. She showed hospitality to her husband's friend. After she went to bed, Sextus snuck into the bedroom and begged to make love to her. When she refused, he put a sword to her neck and threatened to kill her. Not only that, he would put her dead body next to a nude slave to besmirch her reputation. She acquiesced. The next morning, she called for her husband and father. They arrived with COLLATINUS' friend Lucius Junius Brutus. Lucretia tearfully told her story and then stabbed herself with a dagger. The men vowed revenge and revolt over her dead body. They carried the body to the forum, which attracted a crowd. Brutus gave a speech informing the Romans of the death of this paragon of virtue. He went on to outline the abuses of King Tarquin and the need for a new government that would not be a monarchy. The public rose up in rebellion. Tarquin was forced to flee, and Rome became a republic. Sextus fled to a city where he hoped to find refuge, but his reputation preceded him, and he was killed. I'm going to stop it there because the rest of it's not relevant here. There had already been some issues in the city of Rome. The city of Rome is actually basically at the time, was basically a walled industrial area. What we today would call a business district or an industrialist district of a city. And its sole purpose was to protect the trade and industry of the Latini tribes around it. As a matter of fact, what is now the city of Rome encompasses thousands of acres of territory that had at the time been just tribal floodplains and farm area. The king of Rome had been enthroned by the Etruscans, which was another tribe, and their city, I believe, to the north. The Etruscans had invaded the Latini people, conquered them. They now controlled the city of Rome, and the Tarquin was the guy that they thought would best represent their interests. Well, the fifth such person. Now, the King of Rome has become unusually unpopular, like ridiculously unpopular. Nobody liked him. Nobody respected him, and they were tired of the Etruscans coming down there and doing whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. Tarquin was also a descendant of an Etruscan invader, not a Roman, not a Latini. He was not Latini at all, as far as anyone can tell. Give me a second, people. I'm going to check something. Because the chat has gone quiet for quite some time. Okay, good. All right. So Tarquin is ridiculously unpopular. The Etruscan invaders are getting away with pretty much anything they want, whenever they want, however they want. To the point where they think they can literally do anything, including rape another man's wife. That she acquiesced is not relevant. She did so with a sword to her neck. Does any of the and did so with a king that was of their choosing. Does any of this sound familiar? Lucretia was just a flashpoint, a point at which, no, we cannot allow this to go on anymore. This has got to stop. Oh, by the way, I am an absolute leftist. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot his name. Somebody help me out here. He's a singer, and he did a very, very funny commercial. Fuck this. I'm just going to look it up. Eric Clapton. That's embarrassing. Eric Clapton recorded a song called "This Has Got to Stop." Are any of you smelling what I just stepped in? Now, I'm not saying we're at the Lucretia moment yet. No, actually, we were at the Lucretia moment last summer. Excuse me, a year ago last summer. Donnie was not doing basically anything about the foreign invaders who did whatever the hell they wanted. What the hell is this? I don't know who you are, but the answer is no. Especially with a name like that. Yeah, he got the message. I told you guys there are trolls and what the hell? Lurkers. I had a guest for a whole second who I see you there. Goodbye. Oh, Daniel Smitha. Oh, I know who that is. And the answer is still no. Jesus Christ, it's bad enough. I'm not even going to deal with that anymore. Hey, Danny, take a hint. You're not getting on the stream. Where was I? On the other hand, I now know that I can't hear people backstage. That's very funny, Danny. Moving on. Where was I? Yeah, this has got to stop, ladies and gentlemen. We hit that point last year. It's time to do something about who is actually controlling the United States. Well, if you need to speak so badly, drop it in the chat and I'll consider it. Now, what was I going to say? We've hit absolutely peak trouble, except we haven't quite hit peak trouble yet. We're getting there. For example, Danny here is trying to make an issue out of it. See, ladies and gentlemen, Danny here is trying to distract me, and it's working. Congratulations. What happened last summer was an example of the Lucretia moment coming. What's going on now with a certain mem that I will not say out loud is absolutely brazen. It's the people running around, the Latini people running around saying, yes, fuck King Tarquin. It's not going away just because you try to deny it. I know a lot of people keep talking about tyrannical governments. And let's be honest, Joe's trying to get us there. He will make up whatever rule whenever he wants, however he wants. Absolutely brazen. He's not even pretending otherwise. Last month, in September, when he extended the eviction moratorium, what did he do? He said, we are going to just do it and let the courts decide what's going to happen. Excuse me a moment. I got somebody who's in here. You know what, guys? I am going to do this. Oh, good. I think maybe I'm going to... Oop, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not ignoring you. Oh, good. I don't need to worry about that now. Back to the real comments. I recognize that hair, by the way. And I'll talk to you about that later. Moving on. There's only one thing that Biden needs to do to actually make the tyrant qualification, and that's naked use of force to enforce his personal will. It's that naked use of force part that's he's being very cagey. He's walking that fine, very fine line to prevent people from being able to say, oh, yes, we've got you. You're an actual tyrant. He's using these illegal mandates to make laws that he wants to see in order to justify his entire existence. All right, can somebody give me something in the chat? I need to make sure it's still working. I think it may have broken again. Okay, great. Thank you, boss. Where are we for time? Good. About halfway through. It is working. Thank you, Squatch. Also had to move my chat screen over to cover up Aceberg, who's really tripping offline. Oop. There we go. DM Foss was ordering wool socks. I have no idea why. But that's okay. It's really... Oh, because he's from Washington State. God, talk about behind enemy lines there, guys. Oof. All right, at this point, I'm going to open up some questions and lead into it with a slight departure. Best sock puppet I ever had. I'll put that back up in a second. Oop, no, that's not what I wanted. Move that. Share. Share. Okay. Share screen. Windows. All right, make sure it's sharing correctly because I want you guys to be able to read it. Good. You'd think me being mandatory carry, I would oppose background checks under any circumstances. Nope. Section 3. Title 4 background checks. Section 3 firearms. All persons seeking to purchase a firearm or obtain a concealed carry or restricted firearms permit. Pause. Okay, concealed carry is self-explanatory. Restricted firearms permit. That's what we today call Class 3. Ironically enough, you will not need a restricted firearms permit for an RPG. You'll need it for the normal type of ammo, but for the inert training rounds, that's fine. You can have the inert training rounds as long as you don't modify them or attempt to modify them. Moving on. Shall complete a form not to exceed 1 sheet of paper generated by the National Crime Information Center, identifying the individual, attesting that they are not excluded persons, and including fingerprints for comparison against established fingerprints of known criminals. No other information can be required nor requested, and any attempt to solicit such information shall be tried and convicted as a refusal to process and fined and imprisoned per Section 4. So, yeah, don't even try. Said background checks are not permitted to take longer than 30 working days. Persons with an established NCIC file shall take no longer than 7 working days. Any background check not completed in said time frame shall be conditionally approved. Any background check not completed within 30 days of that shall be unconditionally approved. Time restrictions for unconditional approval shall be suspended during time of emergency upon declaration of a governor or president for the duration of the crisis, during which time conditional approval shall be reduced to 2 calendar days. So yes, you actually do have to go through a nice try. He changed his name to exactly mine. Stop screen. Windows tabs. There we go. So yeah, you can get an RPG with the real explosive rockets if you go through the background check. You can carry concealed if your state requires it. With a background check. If your state does not actually require a background check to carry concealed, you're good to go. Okay, Squatch said, best sock puppet I ever had. And wool is no good in Georgia. It doesn't get cold enough for wearing wool. We paint it on it sometimes. Can I buy a wool tent? No, there's no wool tent. You can buy anything if you have the money, is what the Foss replied. And Squatch just wanted to know if it's a thing. No, it's not a thing. To the best of my knowledge, there has never been a wool tent. Wool liners. Moving on. You can get anything if you have a full NCIC background check because you're done. You've done everything. They know who you are. They know where you are, generally speaking. And if they really need to come talk to you later, they can. And once you have that NCIC file done, there's no reason to put you through all of that a second time. God damn it. There is a process called live scan. All you do, you write them on the live scan device. It checks, yes, this is it, mandatory carry. Off you go. Okay. Squatch is saying Vikings and Mongols used wool tents waterproofed with tallow and beeswax. I stand corrected. Apparently that is a thing. I did not know that. You'd think I would, being a historian, but, well, okay, it happened. Squatch, please keep an eye on the chat today. We've got a troll. I think he's quit trying, but probably not. Moving on. Where was I? The rape of Lucretia moment really did already come. The problem is nobody really acted. What happened last summer was actually macro 9017. Active attempt at military action in the U.S. that ended up not going where the attackers wanted it to really go. Well, the foreign kings wanted it to go. They wanted it to tear our entire society apart. It didn't. Sure shit didn't unify us either, though, did it? Canvas is lighter. And because I am a bosun's mate, I know how to sew canvas. One of those things you learn. Because of my little troll and me being curious what he's really interested in, I'm going to wrap this up in about 20 minutes. I'm going to end broadcast in 20 minutes. I want to bring him in here and talk to him for a couple minutes. I want to hear what the hell he's got on his mind. This is me. I want to know. So, Mr. Troll, why don't you come back into the stream? Just hang out for a little bit. Somehow, Luke, I doubt that. You know how I know? Because I know you a lot better than that. But moving on. Excuse me. All right. I've done the section of Dataslav. Oh, I remember now. Get home bag gear. Now, these are extremely heavy compared to what you really need. Also, one of these is kind of hard to find. Oh, good. It's this one. Goggles. This is from my personal experience. You're going to be out. You're not going to be able to control the weather. And that's the big thing. Fires create their own weather. That's the truth. And cities are going to burn. Goggles will help protect your eyes. If you can only get one kind of goggle, get the clear, because you'll survive having the clear lens during the day and a bit of the sun bothering you because your lenses are clear when you needed. Tinted lens. You notice these are rather heavy, right? These are professional. In fact, these are intended with truckers in mind. You can get swim goggles. Matter of fact, my very first set was one set of clear swim goggles while I was riding bikes. And that's all it was meant for. Have at least one clear set of swim goggles. Get a tinted set. Just toss them in the bag, preferably in some sort of relatively hard case. By the way, most first aid kits are available in hard cases. I'm just saying. Keep those for when that shit hits the fan. You put your goggles on and you can go a lot further. I'm not sure what that means. Squatch. Baby seal eyes for Windows. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Deal with that later. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap things up here, actually, at this point, because I have a little troll that's demanding my attention. I want to know what he has to say. So, till next week, keep calm and mandatory carry on.